Wow, good morning. It's a beautiful, bright, sunny day, and this is reaching you from Dialogue Box on Blossom Nigeria. We are so excited to talk with you this morning, knowing fully well that we are taking our nation in the direction that we have all this upward and forward. So whatever it is we're doing, let's have it in mind that for our country, Nigeria, we are making things work. Tell yourself, I make things work, and that's how you function. So we take some news updates coming to us, like feedback reaching us from across the nation. Then this morning we'll continue the discussion on analyzing government released guidelines for schools resumption. So whatever it is that the government has thought about that should be the guideline for the school resumption for this the session is what we'll be looking at this morning. What are those terms and conditions, and is this something that schools around the country can meet up with? So these are the things we'll be looking at this morning. Sorry for reaching you late. We had some technical issues, but we are moving on, and like we have always said, Dialogue Box, we are talking the nation in the right direction. So first on our list, we have from Akwa Ibom State that in Edo, the actress has been celebrating her reappointment as a special assistant on culture and tourism to the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Emmanuel Udom. And she sees it as an opportunity to serve the nation and to serve her state. So she has been excited about the appointment on her role as the special advisor on culture and tourism in that beautiful state. Then we also have that traders under the aegis of Southeast Amalgamated Market Traders Association are protesting high demurrage at ports across the country. They have asked the National Assembly to intervene and look into the issue of their goods being confiscated by clearing agencies and other authorities. So they are asking that no matter what happens, the fees are high and the rates are too much for them to bear. They are asking the National Assembly to wade into this and help see to it that they have a more friendly environment when it comes to importation of goods and services from across the world, around the world. Then we also have it that the suspended acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has appeared before the Justice Ayo Salami-led presidential panel for the second week running. So talking about Magu here, he's been on probe for about 2 weeks now. So this is the second week running for that investigation. And this is led by Justice Ayo Salami. We hope that the best will come out of this investigative panel, and we also believe that it will be for the good of the EFCC. We've gotten some responses where people think that if those who are fighting corruption are now the ones that are the corruption monsters themselves, then maybe the EFCC should be disbanded. So we are still getting more feedback from different people around on that. So whatever be the case, we hope that the best will come out of this investigative panel. Then we have another one, but this time around, they said fire gutted the section of the World Trade Center building located in the EFCT, that's the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, on Monday. So though fire responders, including high-pressure sprinklers, have succeeded in putting out the fire, but a lot may have been lost for that damage. They said it was a building, one of the floors that led to the fire. So, but we thank God that it has been put out, but more is being done to see to it that such issues or cases are not coming out again. Then we have the federal government through the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, has reduced the arrival time from 3 hours to 1 hour 30 minutes. So now instead of getting to the airport at least a minimum of 3 hours, before your boarding time. It is now 1 hour 30 minutes. That's coming from the Ministry of Aviation. Then the vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the 2019 election, talking about Peter Obi, has called on Nigerians to imbibe the good virtues of accountability and transparency in public office. He made this call in marking the African Anti-Corruption Day, which was first celebrated in 2017. So that's a very strong caution and counsel coming from the former governor of Anambra State, who was also the running mate for the presidential candidate of the PDP in the 2019 elections. Then the management of the University of Ilorin says that they are working on an arrangement for virtual lectures, and they've gone over 70% into this plan already, and that the arrangement is to prevent minimal contact between students and lecturers and halt rather the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic in the school environment. So this is commendable, and the university is working seriously towards effecting the virtual lectures arrangement, both for lectures and for practicals. So that's what they are working out, and we hope to see the best of that arrangement. Then the News Agency of Nigeria reports that the World Health Organization now formally recognized that the coronavirus could be transmitted indoors by droplets in the air. So this is coming from the News Agency of Nigeria, and Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, the Director General of NCDC, that's the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, disclosed this at a presidential task force meeting in Abuja on Monday. So whatever this means, this implies that COVID-19 is not going to be a virus that will be transmitted outside alone. So they've also observed that excuse me, it can also be contracted indoors by droplets in the air. So whichever arrangement they are making to curb this, we believe that arrangements will be in place to also help to contain this. Then, based on the current allegations of corruption in the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, the PDP, in a statement on Monday, demanded that the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, should step aside and submit himself for investigations over the weighty corruption allegations that have been laid against him and his office. So they are asking Senator Godswill Akpabio to step aside and submit himself for investigations. This is coming from the party, the People's Democratic Party. Then President Buhari has appointed, or rather approved, the newly reconstituted Board of Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas, NLNG, and Bonny Gas Transport Limited, BGT. So the Minister for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timipre Silva, made the disclosure in Abuja on Monday. So that's they see it as a very fast way of fast-tracking the work going on in the Nigerian liquefied natural gas environment. So all that they have to do, the president has already approved the newly reconstituted board of directors for them. Then in Oyo State, the government has on Monday donated a ventilator and an oxygen concentrator to the University College Hospital, UCH Ibadan. And we say well done for this noble act, donating a ventilator and oxygen concentrator to the University College. So that's a very good one too. Then we have a feedback that some 602 repentant Boko Haram members have also denounced their membership of the group and swore an oath of allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So the ex-insurgents who have completed a de-radicalization, rehabilitation, and reintegration program denounced their membership of the insurgent group before an 11-man quasi-judicial panel headed by Justice Nehizena Afolabi of the Federal High Court, Gombe State. So all that they have and all that they have to do, they are saying that they are in support of the act of these former Boko Haram members who are denouncing their membership of the group and pledging allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And they are saying that they have successfully completed a rehabilitation program, a reintegration program, and a de-radicalization program, which will help these 602 people to be fully functional in the society. So we say well done for that act, but we also say that a lot more should be done to monitor these people and see to it that they are working as they pledged. So now we are talking about the work in the education sector. We started this yesterday, and we noted that despite the fact that the government is working towards bringing in a lot of different functional guidelines and measures to help in the system, especially with the schools that are being asked to reopen, and some are of the opinion that the schools should not reopen yet if the health situation is still not good enough. So we had a little talk over it yesterday. We had a very strong point for those who believe that for schools reopening, that means it's like risking the lives of students and exposing them to different health risks that are out there. But we also had another school of thought that believed that if other countries can meet up with the measures and the requirement for them to reopen education sector and schools, then Nigeria should also toe the same line and go ahead. So what we are going to do this morning is analyze the document that the government released for the guidelines that will be guiding the schools for their resumption program. So the federal government has released a document that states that the guidelines for schools resumption will include several, but let's just zero in on these three. First, that the schools and other learning facilities, learners should be supported to stay at least 2 meters apart. Learners should be supported to stay at least 2 meters apart. That's one of the major guidelines. Then we also have it that the government will conduct a rapid assessment and determine funding requirement for upgrading infrastructure and facilities. So these facilities include classrooms, furniture, water, sanitation, hygiene, ICT facilities, and the others. So whatever government wants to do, carrying out this rapid assessment and determining the funding requirement is also needed as soon as possible. So we also need reactions on this. How far do you think the government can go with this? Are they going to be fast enough? Do you think it's something that the families can wait for while government is trying to upgrade facilities, talking about infrastructure, classrooms, furniture, and the rest? Then we also have the other guideline or the policy that states that practices where schools are being used for distance learning will be discontinued. Where they are also used for temporary shelters will be discontinued. Isolation centers, quarantine and treatment centers, then voting centers, among others. In other words, people out there or those who have been using schools for either temporary shelters or distance learning centers or whatever else they are using schools for, what the government is saying is that this practice will not be encouraged and it should be discontinued. So in the light of this, we have these three major areas where the government would like those who are asking schools to reopen to look into, and these are the conditions. The first one, a very key one, that in every school and other learning facilities, learners should be supported to stay 2 meters apart. Even though they gave an exception to this for younger children because they believe that those ones can still be maybe managed by those who are taking care of them. So they said there could be some exception for that, but generally this is the law. So how practical can this be if all the students resume school? Can they actually stay 2 meters apart? And how much can the teachers do to ensure that this condition is met? So we'd like you to send in your comments now and your contributions, your opinions, and let's look at this critically and know if the government is really ready. And if not, what else should the government do, or what more should the government do to ensure that these are areas that even for the private schools, they will not suffer a loss in whatever area they are being looked at. All right, so we have just a second. I have this coming from Joy Chinedu Samuel about the Boko Haram guys who denounced. She said, I don't trust whatever they are saying. No, Boko Haram are not to be trusted, whether present or past members, unless they give their hearts to Christ. No rehabilitation process can change them. And this is a very strong note from Joy Chinedu Samuel. So in other words, no matter what Boko Haram say, because we have in the news that 602 members of Boko Haram denounced their insurgent groups and they pledged their allegiance to the government, and a lot of them have gone through rehabilitation, reintegration, and the rest. So she is saying that no matter what those rehabilitation processes are, she does not trust the Boko Haram guys, and she doesn't think that they are really going to abide by what they say, except they give their lives to Christ. So that's coming from the gospel angle, which is highly supported. But the most important thing here is that how do we get them and get the government to see these things so that they can also help? At the end of the day, we are looking at the human beings who have been left for dead, and a lot of them are coming back to say they are changing their mind. They are not in Boko Haram again. So do we trust that remorse and repentant feeling? So that's another day's topic. But for now, we would like our wonderful analyst Joy Chinedu Samuel to send us what is your take on the government's condition and schools reopening, their conditions rather, and schools reopening. So we have these three major ones we've listed. Can children stay 2 meters apart? And can we have facilities that have been used for different purposes, to maybe for that practice to stop? Maybe when you say, okay, we have a meeting in this place, sometimes you hear some circulars going and say, okay, the meeting will be taking place in so school. And for that, the government is saying they don't want such, that they don't want the schools to be also used as temporary shelters, isolation centers, whatever, voting center, whatever center they are being used for, except for the purpose for which they were originally designed, and that is for the learning. Then also the aspect of upgrading of infrastructural facilities, to meet up with all the necessary requirements. Talking about areas in the classroom, upgrade, furniture, water, sanitation, hygiene, and the rest. So the government, we should also be asking them, are they ready for this? And if, excuse me, if we have anyone coming from that angle, we'll now also find out how practical is it going to be, because we don't just want policies that are hanging and at the end of the day, they are not doing anything. So these are some of the areas we'll look at. We would like you to send in your thoughts, your comments, and your opinion on this. All right, we have from Coco that, good morning, Blossom Nigeria. Like I said yesterday, these rules cannot be observed. So what should be the way forward? If the rules cannot be observed, what is the way forward? Because the government must be given another blueprint. If you are canceling this one, this is the document they brought out. The only thing that they didn't state in this document is the school resumption date. The dates were not indicated, so maybe they hope to still do some consultation before they finally arrive at the date. But whatever we have in mind, we must also give them a blueprint. What do you think the government should do in this regard? If we think that their rules are not practical enough, they cannot be observed, then these are the options that we have for them. All right. Then we have an analyst that also would like to hear from her this morning. She'll be calling in, and when she calls in, let's try as much as possible to participate. So for any reason, if you think is either you support the government, or if you are not in support of the government guidelines and provisions, then what are you suggesting should be done, should be given to them, the next blueprint that they should follow? And if they are to work with your council, how practical will it be? Then we have Grace Emmanuel. Good morning, Blossom Nigeria. All right, I'm still trying to get out what you have in there. So the point is for the education sector to do better, and also not to become a victim of circumstance like the COVID-19 pandemic. So no matter what the COVID-19 pandemic has done out there, we must also look for a way to get our children not to be affected negatively. And in as much as they've lost a lot of time already, but what analysts and different bodies are of opinion, or what they think rather, is that the government should work out practical guidelines. So what they brought out, do you think is practical enough? Can the schools work with this? And if it is to be implemented fully, what is the government also the full implementation? Because in some schools or school compounds, they don't even have that much space to say you want to ensure 2 meters apart per student. So how will you achieve that, especially in public schools? So a lot of them are even maybe trying to cope with the issue of managing the number of students per class. So how will you achieve that? So we need to look at it critically, and if we think it is not good enough, then like we said earlier, let us know what the government should do. Should they lay or put it aside, or there's something else they can do that can make it more effective? So we are waiting for the professionals, and hearing more from you also help us form the right opinion. All right, so while that is coming on, let's get just a second. We have more angles on the government guidelines that came in. But what matters, like I said earlier, they only gave exception for the young children, which they said they can, maybe because of guidance and the rest, they can still be managed. But even with that, there's no specific maybe for a particular age downward. No, it's just for, they just said the young children and those who have special needs, additional needs, maybe special needs, and the like. So for such, they can have some form of exception. But what we are saying this morning is that education must be better, it must be stronger, and if we must achieve this purpose, we must also look at all the measures that are on ground. Schools are about to reopen. Somebody said yesterday that by October, they should be getting ready to fully get into the academic calendar, that they should use July and August, or maybe August and September, to do some revision. They can go ahead and resume, but he suggested that it should be more of revision, that because most of them, they are not robots, so whatever you give to them, you have to ensure that they get it, they assimilate it. So with that, it's a little challenging, having to maybe use about 2 months to get them to upgrade to the presence of the syllabus, then you proceed from there. That's a lot already on the young children. Then with some of these extra conditions, how practical will they be? Then we have from Yeshua Iben. He said, if people could catch COVID-19 indoors, or what is the point of all these rules? Please let schools resume. COVID-19 is a scam. In other words, the new rule that came today in our news updates, we told you that we have it in our news that let me get that the News Agency of Nigeria has reported that the WHO, that's the World Health Organization, now formally recognized that the coronavirus could be transmitted indoors. And they said, how will this happen? He said, by droplets in the air. So if that they even, what the DG of the NCDC said is that it was like they had to get the WHO to accept this fact, meaning that they were not willing to accept the fact that COVID-19 or coronavirus or whatever it is called could be transmitted even in the air. So if this is true, according to Yeshua Iben, then the schools should be allowed to resume, because there's no need keeping the young children inside when the disease can also be transmitted indoors. So that's another day's topic. We'll need to look at that again. Then we have it from Joy Chinedu Samuel. She said, first of all, Grace Emmanuel says, I feel they should open up everywhere. It will help our immune system build resistance to the virus. This thing has taken away so much from us, we should move on. So from Grace Emmanuel, whatever this is, according to Yeshua Iben, he said it's a scam. He said, but even if anything, if it can be transmitted indoors, schools should be allowed to resume. Then Grace Emmanuel is saying that this thing has taken too much from us, so let's allow the children to resume. Then Joy Chinedu Samuel says, for the children going back to school, I think the federal government should look into it. 1, children have stronger immune system. Children are children. Even if you keep them 2 meters apart, they might, just a second. Okay. All right. Said, even if you keep them 2 meters apart, they might still be tempted to play together. The government can ensure the teachers demarcate the aisle, get vitamin C for every child, the teachers being more observant and taking better care of the children, then the children should not be kept longer than 2 hours in school daily. This is coming from Joy Chinedu Samuel, that whatever it is, the children should be allowed to resume, that they have stronger immune system. And no matter how much you try to keep a child, children will always be children. And even if you keep them 2 meters apart, they might still be tempted to play together. So she's asking that the government should allow them open, but just that maybe get them vitamin C to also improve their immune system. And the children should not be kept longer rather than 2 hours in school daily. So, but how if you keep children in school for only 2 hours, that's let's assume that's 8 to 10 or 10 to 12. How much have they learned? And with all the usual in between breaks and the rest, so I think a lot more needs to be done in this regard, especially for the younger children. Then for definitely the older children, there's no way, like she said, you can't keep children apart for too long. No matter how much you try to keep them apart, they will still be children. They will still want to play with one another. So when that play factor comes in, what will the government do about it? Will you bring in what do you call it now, extra neighbors, those guys that assist in neighborhood, is it the neighborhood police that, or whatever else you want to bring in to help? Because if you bring policemen to school, definitely the children will not be comfortable. Even some of them might run away and say they brought police to school to arrest them. So, but all you can do is to help to ensure that these laws or these rules and regulations are carried out effectively. So if they are not being carried out effectively, then there's no need. So as the angle that is coming from, then in Yeshua Iben replying to Coco, she said, or he said, Coco, even me and you cannot observe these rules, not even the government or teachers. They are not practical. In other words, don't even bother. These rules are not observable. That's what he's saying. So we have several more opinions and solutions, but from all what we have seen so far, let's see this from Francis Chukwu. He says, in the light of the slash in budget for the education section, I don't think the Ministry of Education is adequately funded to meet these criteria. So the one of upgrading facilities, I'm sure that's the angle is taking it from? If you are to upgrade facilities and you are slashing budgets in education, how will you meet up with those requirements? So he's saying that I don't think the Ministry of Education is adequately funded to meet this criteria. We are at a crossroad in the situation. The fact on ground, we are not about to see the end of COVID-19. So what do we do? What do we do? That's Francis Chukwu's opinion. So he's saying that even if the government would like to do anything, they might not achieve much, even when they are slashing the budget for education. So a lot more needs to be done. And like he is saying that it's like something, the COVID-19 pandemic might still be something that will be on ground for a while. So what do we do? Should the children just be at home doing nothing? So we have a work to do, and that work we must do. Help the government, help them, talk them in the right direction, and let us arrive at a conclusion. Because yesterday we started this discussion, but we couldn't really conclude because we still had, some varying angles that were coming in. Very good, and we also had some very valid points that we brought out from both sides. But the question is, what is the way forward? And what is the solution to all of this? So as we get ourselves ready for the final parts of today's program, let me just see this. This is coming from Joy Chinedu Samuel. She says, I watched a little girl yesterday on Facebook who was crying and speaking her dialect, Yoruba, that not, she doesn't eat in the afternoon again. She will ask her mother, and she says, Koro. And she says, Koro is, just a second, Koro is outside. So she started praying, asking God to take this Koro away, and that she doesn't want to hear a news on Koro again. Very funny. Even the children are tired of the Koro news. That is, so wherever you are, that's a very good a comic relief for you. If a little girl is getting tired of Koro and you come and tell her again that because of Koro she should stay at home for another 2 months or 3 months, or maybe because of Koro when she's in school she should not play with her friend again, at the end of it all, the little girl might even think that you are the one in charge of her problems. So she said, the girl in the joke or whatever comedy that was sent out said that she does not want to hear any news about Koro again. So these are the feedback we are getting from our children. So we have a work to do, and we thank God that we have what it takes, but let's put it to work so that we can come up with the right solution here. All right, then Savior Onduka is replying to Francis Chukwu. He said, well said. Then Francis Chukwu is saying something about to NCDC, that's the Center for Disease Control. Say, what are the modalities of treating COVID-19? Why is this treatment being carried out as though it is a secret cult? Come to think of it, if malaria has taken more lives this half year than COVID-19. Just a second. So NCDC should stop playing politics with this pandemic. We cannot continue to sacrifice people's lives all in the name of COVID-19. Let hospitals treat COVID-19 patients and let's move on. All is well. We cannot completely eradicate COVID-19 in the next 2 years. So does it mean children will continue to stay at home? Wow, that's a strong point. So if we are still handling COVID-19 as if it's something that has come to stay, so are we asking the children to stay at home for all that period of time? And he asked a question that if malaria has taken more than half the lives that COVID-19 is purported to have taken this year, so which of them is even more dangerous? So should we allow the children to stay at home all in the name of COVID-19? So all these are things that we must address. And in other words, we are telling the government that the rules and regulations they give, even though they are good, but we will need them to fully carry out, especially the one that has to do with the upgrade of facilities, and seeing to it that all that they have listed out, the hygiene of schools, paying the cleaners to do the work, and ensuring that in every school the right hygiene materials are on ground for young children. And the one that the ASU chairman pointed out the other time, he said in every school you should also have some form of like isolation centers, but not isolation centers in that sense, but even if anything happens within school hours, like a sick bay where children can be taken to. So if all that are put in place in every government school, a lot will be accomplished, and the playing 2 centimeters apart may not necessarily have to be it may not be achieved or accomplished, because already we are already hearing that the corona or COVID-19 pandemic or virus is in the air. So if it's in the air, then there's no need to be afraid for children going to school, because if they can get it in the air where they are at home or when they are at home, then that means it can also come anywhere. But what we are saying is that as a nation, we don't even want the COVID-19 virus to thrive again. So whatever needs to be done to see to its reduction and its eventual being phased out of our system is what we work on. But just like what Grace Emmanuel said, the more we work on it, the more even our immune system will develop against it. So all we are saying is that the government should do the needful, be very practical with the terms and conditions they are giving out. And even for private schools, if you want private schools to carry out these terms and conditions, then the government should also see to it that they also do their own part. They carry out their own part of the deal. So when they do all of this, even if the children don't play 2 centimeters apart, that will not be a major problem, because like we have said and we are hearing, the coronavirus is in the air. But we are saying that as a nation, it will even reduce further. So but let's work on it. Get all our schools to get the right message, the right signals. And as we are doing this, don't forget that the future of our children matters. And what matters is how they can eventually come out right with the right learning facilities and the enabling environment for that learning to take place. So that's what we are working for. So between now and the month, maybe the end of the month, we believe that the Federal Ministry of Education will come out with the dates for the resumption. So when the dates are released, all the schools, both the private and the public sector, will work towards it. And as the schools resume, upgrading facilities from the government angle is key. Upgrading facilities, hygiene level, health-wise, in every aspect you want to look at it, upgrade in facilities. And for the private schools, the same thing goes. So though they've always done better when it comes to facility management, but at least we should expect a little more from every one of them. So we would like us to still send in our thoughts and our comments on our page on the Facebook, Blossom Nigeria. That's our group on Facebook, and also on our website, www.blossomnigeria.com. So let's work together. Send your opinion, send your suggestions. You have a blueprint for the government, send it, and let's look at it together. So tomorrow, when we meet on Dialogue Box again, we'll discuss more and we'll talk our nation in the right direction. Thank you so much for staying with us. I am Blossom Chukwu, and I know that in all that we do, I believe in a Nigerian dream. Thank you.